So good evening, viewers, listeners,
Mm-hmm.
wherever you are, um, afternoon or morning, wherever you are, like in the part of the world. So welcome you here, and hopefully you're gonna enjoy what we're gonna be talking about um, this evening. Um, so straight to the point, we've got different a number of panelists today covering the talk show about Africa. Um, so I'll give you the floor and you just introduce yourself quickly, and then we dive into the show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Over to you, Io. Just let us know who you are, what you do, and yeah, over to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Io. I'm a biomedical scientist. So I just work in a laboratory, NHS laboratory. I used to work for public health, but I'm transitioning into pharmaceuticals. So I'll be doing something different now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm also a devout Christian as well.
Thank you. Over to you, Kuda.
Hi everyone. I'm Kuda. I'm a pharmaceutical product development manager. I've worked in industry for quite a number of years, working in inhalation and tableting, and I used to work with Mr. Konzanani Mlambo in the industry
In Wales.
in Wales. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Anything you're involved in outside work?
Yeah. I also used to develop my own products, mainly based on black skin. So we're talking about hair moisturizers, skin creams, and moisturizing oils. And I'm still doing that based on my hobby company called KSK Organics. So they were all argan based, organic based, as everyone is going organic at the moment.
All right. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Over to you, Laurette Tetero, if she can hear us or she's frozen at the moment.
Yeah,
Okay,
looks
we'll,
like
we'll come back. We'll come back to her.
she's
Uh,
frozen.
Over to you, Mr. Chinkupute Kumpete. Kumpete.
Yes, my name is Jim Kupete. I am a biomedical scientist like IO, but at the moment I lecture
Mm-hmm.
biomedical science at De Montfort University in Leicester. And my passion is African unity and African culture.
Amen.
Thank you. And
Mm.
then over to you, uh, Emily.
Hello there. Thank you so much for the invite to the show to be a panelist. So my background is medicine, nursing, and then I've also studied employment law. So I work in occupational health. I combine occupational health and law in employment law. Industrial health, industrial diseases is my way of earning. But my passion is African children, and they are tomorrow's leadership. And I'm very passionate and keen that they know who they are so that they can restore Africa to where it's meant to be. Mhm.
Mm, young
Yeah.
people. Thank you. And Laurette, I think she's frozen. She's been frozen for quite a while.
Mm.
I think wherever, maybe it may be better for her to change her position or something, and then so she can get a good signal. Um,
Shall I
yeah,
text that?
she's been kicked out. When
Mm.
she comes back, we'll get back to her. We'll get back to her. So yeah, this evening,
Mm.
we want to talk about Africa, our beautiful continent. There's a lot of things to talk about and the future that we want for
Mm.
Africa. Yes, I think Lorette has come back. Let's see if we
Mm.
can if we I think maybe the place that she's in, it doesn't have a strong. Hello? Hi, Lorette. Can you hear us?
I think she can, but it's
Lorette, can you hear us? I think wherever she went, she in the house. Yeah. She needs to change her position, I think.
it was okay last time.
Yeah, but she's still moving. Lorette. I don't know how we can. I can see she's moving. Anyway, maybe we'll have to get back to her later on. I think the place where she is in the house, it doesn't have a strong network. Okay, let me just quickly send you. Yeah. Okay, hopefully she will shift a little bit, because that's what you do in Africa. Just shift a little bit and then back on. So yeah, she's trying to shift. Anyway, we'll get back to you. So yeah, with regards to Africa, we know we've got a rich history, beautiful continent, and I would like us, just to talk about, the rich history of our continent. What is it that you like about Africa? The beautiful things about Africa. It could be anything. Um, over to you, Kuda. This is random.
Randomly.
We know Ayo hasn't been to Africa a lot, so maybe we might excuse her, but I think she knows one or two things, so we will not. Anyway, yeah, go ahead, Kuda.
I think having been born in Africa and traveled to Africa quite a few times, I think you come to appreciate your history, your heritage, and for me, the one thing that stands out for me in terms of African culture is our unity. Might it be in community, might it be family unity. To me, that stands out a lot, and that can be seen through African history when you look at the relationships between different African countries. For example, Zimbabwe and Mozambique. You link the two together, how they worked together in terms of gaining independence. Some soldiers were going to Mozambique to get trained and stuff like that. It's just the unity between the African people, to me, that stands out, because we've got such a strong history in terms of our African unity. I always laugh when I speak to my parents that there's no such thing as a cousin brother or cousin sister. Everyone is your brother, is your sister. There isn't that differentiation. If you see somebody who's your cousin, we are not allowed to call them your cousin. It's your brother, it's your sister. So to me, that stands out. And even we go back into our history, there is a lot, that as Africans, we, even as a colonized nation, that's one of the things, that made them and forced them to come and bring this whole divide and rule, strategy, because of our unity. and just how we support each other in a lot of things. And for me, when I then look back at it, it's one of those things that I feel with the new generations, the new generation of Africans are coming up, is something that we're losing. And yet it was one of those things which was very strong in terms of our history.
Okay. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for that. What about you, Emily? What can you say about the history, the rich history of our
Well, it's really
continent?
wide, isn't it?
Yeah, it is wide. So you can say anything. It could be resources.
It's
Could be
yeah. I
whatever.
think I'll talk more.
Like what
I'll
could you
follow
say?
through with what could I talked about. For me, it's the culture of honor, and that is something that I'm fearful that we don't lose. I like how African culture honor one another. We respect one another, honor one another, and our original culture is to put one another first, consider the other. I think of a time when I think of a time when somebody, a foreigner, visited the village, and he or she uh, held a sweet and said, the first one who runs fast to the young African children, the first one who runs fast enough to me, I'll give him the lollipop. I think it was a lollipop he was holding. And so he was telling them to race each other, and the first one who reached to where he was, they'll get the lollipop. So he went and stood afar, and he said to them, now start running, and the first one who comes to where I am, you will get this one lollipop. And these children, without anybody talking to them, they looked at each other and held each other's hands and started running towards him, hand holding hands, and they all reached to him. And this foreign person was surprised. But I told you, one of you must come. And they said to him, no, in this country, we don't do things like that. We are one. I think it happened in South Africa. Simunye, we are one person. So you want us to get that sweet? We are going to share it. This principle that one of us must run, no, that's not good. And these were young, very young children, perhaps 6, 7 age group. And this older foreign person was extremely shocked. And I think the story goes, when he wrote back home to where he had come from, he said, if we're going to overcome these people, we have to start with their culture. So for me, the beauty of African, that what makes African people different is the culture of honor, the culture of respect, the culture of putting one another first. It is not an individualistic culture. And in that sense, it is close, as some would say, to the principles of God, innate in us. And I'm fearful that we come away from that. I'm terrified of things that are coming at the continent that would separate us from family, Ubuntu, oneness as a people, because it is in us to be that way. And for me, that is foundational, very, very, very foundational. Yeah, culture, honor, respect, putting one another first, putting the other first, sharing with one another, separate from individualism, which is a very, very dangerous. I call individualism a very dangerous cult, because that's what it is. There we are.
Thank you for that. We'll
Oh,
go to
Lorraine.
Mr. Chinkupete.
Can we go to Lorette, because she might be having
Yes.
problems communicating. So if she's available right now.
Okay. Lorette, your camera is off. Okay, Lorette,
Me?
can you? Yes,
Yes.
please. We were waiting for you just to let people who you are, what you do, and the things that you represent.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you that much. My internet is a little bit bad. Could you
Okay.
please repeat?
We are hearing you clearly now, so stay where you are. Okay, just tell us who you are, what you do, and what you represent. Can you hear us?
Okay, so Yeah, so my name is Lorette. I am from Burundi. I am a student and I do music. And I love Africa. Today we're celebrating Africa Day, so I love Africa.
Okay. So what is it that you love about Africa? What can you tell us about the beautiful continent of Africa? Adding on, what is it that you love exactly? What is
Oh
it
my God,
that
could you
you love
please
about
repeat?
Africa? What is it that you love about Africa? You know, the beautiful things that you see in Africa.
One thing that I like about Africa is, first of all, the Ubuntu. I like it.
Ah,
Like wherever you go in Africa, you will find it. For instance, we have this culture when you go to Zimbabwe, for instance, and you say, "Hi, I'm hungry." They are going to give you food right away. But for instance, if you go in some other cultures, they are going to be like, "Oh, we don't know this person. Where is she from? Or why would she choose us? Why not the other neighbors?" You see, so we have that thing that we love each other, no matter where you're from, no matter if I know your name or not. The second thing is actually the culture, the food, the customs. Those are very fascinating for me.
oh, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah,
We'll come back to
exactly.
you before we lose you. Um, okay, okay. Before we go to Mr. Chunkumpete, I hope you. Yes, you grew up in England, but you visited Nigeria before and stuff. Can you tell us what you like about Africa? You know, the things that you saw in Nigeria, or Africans as a people.
Yeah, so I like the sense of community. So I think back in Africa, everybody they come together. So it's very family and community focused, and people are very open to helping others. And I really enjoyed seeing that, especially those that were sort of living in poverty that had less than others. They were just so happy and content with their lives. And I think as a Western African, I think it's very important, to be content with what you have. And that's what they had back in Africa. They were just so happy, and it was really nice seeing that sense of community. And I also love the culture. Like I think our culture is so rich, and it's just beautiful to see.
Thank you, thank you. Over to you, Mr. Chinkupete.
Yes,
What
yes,
is it that you like about our beautiful
yes.
country?
It's things that everyone has said really is to do with our culture. Like Kuda said, we don't have a word for cousin. That
Yeah.
word does not exist. We are all brothers and sisters. Whether you are from the elder father or the younger father, our mothers, we just call them mother. It's either younger mother or older mother. There's so many mothers. So that if we were to stick to our culture, there are no orphans in Africa because we all have a mother. Uh, some mothers are very young, much younger than you, but they're still your mother. So it's that spirit of survival that we will survive as Africans. Gives me great pleasure also to see young people that I'm seeing today in this panel who have a keen interest in leaving everything else, even though they are here, some of them are here in Western world, they leave everything to come and discuss issues to do with Africa, looking for the way forward. So that is the spirit of survival that we have as Africans. If other nations had gone through what we have been through as a people, they would not survive. There are so many Africans who are surviving now in America, in the Caribbean, in all kinds of places. The Africans who are surviving after a trauma that is the worst kind of Holocaust that you could ever see. We are survivors. That's why with young people here today. So that is what really gives me so much strength and happiness about Africa, the spirit of survival.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. Can Laurette hear us now? Laurette. Can she hear us now?
No, maybe not.
I think not, yeah. Maybe if you put it in writing to her what you want to ask her.
I wanted her to sing for us, but
Okay.
yeah, she's frozen. She's frozen. I think she tried to change her position. Please.
You can sing, Consonant. Can you sing to us? I think she can sing later on.
Yeah, later on. I'm telling her to change. Just telling her to change her position.
Okay.
Just telling her to change her position, because that's how you beat this network issue. Just by changing your position.
Right.
Anyway, yeah. Okay. When we've spoken about, the beautiful things about Africa. Obviously, we know the history of Africa, the war, and the people that came before us. We have been trying to, make our continent a better place and stuff. We've got, people that, inspired us and that continue to inspire us today. So I would like us to just, talk about a few, the people that have inspired you. We'll go to first to Kuda. Any leader out there in Africa that has, inspired you?
There's quite a few. I mean, as we all know, our African history when it comes to leaders, they all come up with, as any normal human being, you all come up with your flaws, and where you do good things, you've got your flaws. But I could have talked about anybody. But from my experience and something that's dear to me, and having lived there, when I look at our history, a lot of people don't like him, but he's quite controversial, which I understand. But for me, one of the strongest things that I appreciate in terms of his strategy is, is the way that Robert Mugabe instilled the importance of education in Zimbabwe, because that to me was very key, and he played a big part, in my life, because of how the education system, how he put an importance in that. He if you ask anybody who's grown up in Zimbabwe, and yes, things happened in the past, but it was the key foundation. Wherever you go now, might it be in health sector, might it be IT, a lot of people, grown, our fathers, our mothers, they speak fluent English, and it just kind of reflects the importance that he put on education, especially on Zimbabweans, because we're one of the most literate countries in Africa, and even you listen to the man himself when he speaks, you can clearly tell that this man is educated. So I could talk about a lot, in Nelson Mandela and stuff, but to me, that is key for me. That's one of the things that that he instilled in terms of education, of which I think that's the most important thing that us as Africans, we need to kind of prioritize and put an emphasis on, because you can't move forward without having education, might it be in anything that you want to do, especially in this modern world. whatever you want to do, whatever message you want to pass across out there, you have to educate people in doing so.
Okay. Is there any other thing that you did that also inspired you before you passed away?
There are other things that he, yes, the way that he was executed, it was more of, it was haphazardly done, and it was rushed, and it was done with other, agendas behind it. But when you look at, the basis that he had on the issue of the land issue, the idea behind it was quite a good idea, because Africans, when I look at, I was quite fortunate, to see some of the things that, due to my parents and their line of work, I was quite fortunate to see, how unfairly the land in Zimbabwe was distributed. And it's quite a sensitive issue when I know when you speak to Zimbabweans and stuff, of which for me the idea behind it was quite important. And it was quite important because it kind of shows, his thinking was putting African people first, although the way it was executed was not the best way, but the idea behind it, to me, it just kind of shows, he had his people at heart at the start, when this idea was there, because at the end of the day, as Africans, it's important. It's our motherland, and I feel it's important that we were supposed to use that. So for me, those two things, there are other things that he's done, as Africans. When you look, how just like any leader, you always have your flaws, but for me, there are, you can talk about a few things that he's done, but for me, those two, he just kind of highlights the guy's mentality and how his thinking was.
Yeah, I think you've answered it clearly, because I was gonna ask you, what about the people who say you only started, talking about the land issue because you wanted to gain support. Otherwise, you could have done it from the word go. I think you kind of covered it a little bit. Or maybe I can pose that question again and say, okay, what about the people who say you only did it just to stay in power? How would you answer those?
It's one of those things, when you really want to look, and it's quite sad that even us as Africans, we don't take the time to read or look into our history. We now base our history on what we see on the news and what the BBC says. But when you really want to look deep down, when this land issue started, it started way before. And the way when he started imposing it, I understand why people, yes, you could argue that, the way he executed it was more of gaining support for voters, but that's not the time the land issue started. It started in the 90s, and he did bring it to the British government. And if you look back, Jack Straw, when the issue of land was executed, Jack Straw stood up in government and did say, some of the issues that we have in Zimbabwe, we caused that. And the reason why you say that was when Mugabe brought the land issue to the British government, they shut it down and said, we don't have the money to fund that. But when you then look back and you link it to the Lancaster Constitution, it is all about reading into your history. It does give you an insight of, yes, the way it was executed, just to answer your question, Konzanani, the way it was executed and the time it was executed, yes, you can argue it was done, but when you really look into it, that's not the time, or that's not when this whole issue was initiated.
Okay.
If I could chip in there as well.
Yeah, it was.
If I could chip in there as well, that it wasn't done in order to stay in power because Mugabe was going to stay in power, land or no land. He was going to stay in power. He didn't do that to stay in power. because he was going to, he didn't do that for the vote or for anything. It was because the British did not say they don't have money. They said we have nothing to do with colonialism. They said it was before Tony Blair, and the other one was called Claire Short. They said we are Irish and I'm Scottish. We have nothing to do with colonization. They wanted to wash their hands off it. So the way it was done was not the way like a planned thing. It was just a reaction, and he was just responding to those freedom fighters who started occupying the land. It was not him that said, let's do it. They actually started, and actually it was a family from Shoshe who started the whole thing. But anyway, we are digressing.
That's it. It's good, yeah, because I can come and say, there's a time when
he wasn't going.
Yeah, there's a time when the war vets were not against the government. And
Yes.
that is the time when the government addressed them, saying, "Okay, we'll give you A, B, C, D," and then they also spoke about the land.
So that's why I say we're now digressing towards Zimbabwe now. We're now talking about Mugabe and Zimbabwe. But I like the way Kuda started the whole thing. Said we've got these leaders. No one is perfect. People have their flaws. That was a very good disclaimer. That we don't have to go on to all those negatives now, because he gave a very good disclaimer before he started talking.
Yes.
So if we move forward, we will discuss other things. That one we can talk about that forever.
Any role model, Emily, in Africa? Anyone? Any person that has inspired you, a leader?
Yeah, I can talk about the ones Kuda mentioned, Robert Mugabe and his and the revision of land reform, Julius Nyerere, all those leaders, Patrice Lumumba, Mandela, they were all excellent, and in each one of them there's a quality that we can all adopt in moving forward. But I want to just dwell on someone more sort of recently contemporary. The people that I mentioned before, they were activists in taking power from colonizers and taking, trying to take the economy and the land back to their original owners, who are the native Africans. But going forward, I quite like Magufuli, the recent late president of Tanzania, and his reform in bringing Tanzania together, which would have been a model for Africa, taking the mindset of an African off himself. When nations were colonized, it wasn't just a nation; it was also minds. You were told that if you live in a certain suburb, have a certain car, and wear a certain suit, you have evolved from being a native African to being a Western African who is a better person. Magufuli came to reverse that and said, right, we are all going to drive. He got rid of, is it this motorcade, 2,000 cars escorting one president? He stopped all these overseas travels, and he was such an activist against corruption. And why am I saying that? It's because the corruption that is in Africans is a seed that was sown by an enemy to divide them. To say, if you put on this suit, if you speak this French language, if you speak this English with this accent, if your child goes to this school, if you do this ballet, you have people in Africa teaching their children ballet dancing. Nothing wrong with ballet dancing. I think it's a good cultural dance for the English. It's wonderful. But why don't we teach our children to do also our own mbira or whatever is in Rwanda or in Burundi? We take on this other culture. But what Magufuli came to do in contemporary Africa was to say, as we are wonderful and we are beautiful, and there's no need for division between us. He put on the same suit. He didn't go overseas with 20 other people in the same plane. He didn't have a motorcade. He was such, I could go on about him, but I'm just saying, as a contemporary African leader, he's a real example that I would like other African leaders to follow in contemporary. The previous, Julius Nyerere, Kenneth Kaunda, Kwame Nkrumah, Patrice Lumumba, Mugabe, they were one generation, the first ones who really fought blood to take the land and the country economy out of the hands of colonizers. But moving forward, we've had people like Magufuli who really was such an icon, and it's a real shame. But I'm really pleased that his successor, Amina, the female president, is following in his footsteps. And I know ahead she's taking people to court and jail for corruption. She's really no nonsense. And again, like using Kuda's words, they are not perfect. There are aspects of them that you read about. Somehow, how can you support him? Yes, but we need to look at the positive things that they're doing. And we need many Magafulis in Africa. I hope that him dying is a seed to bring out many more. Like one seed of maize will go down and the many crops will come out. And I'm praying that that is what has happened.
Thank you for that. Over to you, Mr. Chimpete.
Yes. My
Who's your role model?
inspiration in Africa, most important inspiring is my mother, really.
Yes.
Is an example of the greatness of African women. Is what I learned from my mother. And then when I checked the history, there have been many warrior queens in Africa. There was even a country which is now called Benin, where they had a whole army of women.
Wow.
Our mothers have been denigrated a lesser role, when really, if we look into the history, it's the African mothers who have led most of the struggles that we have fought. Even in Nigeria, there was a queen called Queen Amina, who was in Zara City in Nigeria. And she controlled the whole state. She led a lot of men who she governed at the time. And then if you go to Egypt, there was Queen Nefertiti, who was the wife of King Akhenaten. They, together with Nefertiti, they promulgated the one God philosophy, that there's only one God. They are the ones who promulgated that philosophy together with Akhenaten, Nefertiti and Akhenaten. And then if we go even to Ethiopia, we can see Queen Candace, who led armies that the Romans were afraid of. When the Romans came and took over Egypt, they couldn't go into Ethiopia because there was one Queen Candace, one of the Candaces, who were the queens who ruled Ethiopia. So they couldn't even conquer that because there was a great queen ruling that. We even see the queen, so-called Queen of Sheba, in Ethiopia, who ruled Ethiopia, and she had a son with King Solomon called Menelik. And through Menelik, they transferred the Solomonic dynasty, the dynasty of David, which was through Solomon. It was transferred to Ethiopia through the son of Queen of Sheba, or Makeda, as she was known. And then we find throughout the continent, mothers have played a key role in our liberation that is not been recognized. Yet in days of old, it was them who played that role. We know about Mbuyane that they put a statue of recently in Zimbabwe. There was another one in Uganda, Rwanda. She was called, her movement was called Nyabingi, the Nyabingi movement. Her name was Mahumusa, Queen Mahumusa. She led an army of men to resist colonization. That was Queen Mahumusa in Uganda, Rwanda area, that area there. And if you go to Angola, there was Queen Nzinga, who fought against the colonization of Angola. She fought the Portuguese with armies of men that she led. So to me, the greatest example that I have is from those warrior queens and from my mother. Is when I look at our mothers and how strong they are, and how even this survival, which I mentioned, that we have survived and we're surviving, is greatly due to our mothers to a great extent. So my inspiration comes from the mothers
From the mothers.
of Africa.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Great
We can't
tribute.
do anything without our mothers. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That's true. So Lorette, it looks like you've got a good network now.
And,
So we'll go straight to you. Um, can you bless us with a beautiful redemption before we go deeper? Like a song, a beautiful song. Ah, again, she's frozen.
She's frozen again.
She's frozen again. Okay, she's back. She's back. Yes. Did you hear what I said?
Sing us a song.
Yes. Over to you.
Yes, and thank you for asking because as Professor was talking, I have this beautiful song that I have written for my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have this beautiful song that I have written for my mom.
Oh,
Yes,
beautiful. That's good.
yes, and okay, here we go. So as I was growing up, my mom used to pray for me a lot, and sometimes I didn't really like it. But as I grow up now, I'm just like, please keep on praying for me, and that's what the song is about. So it goes like this. Gini wa mwana muto, ni byinshi byahindutseho, hari byinshi binshikira. Muri bimwe wambwira, usaba Imana kunkingira, ntazazanirwa kenshi, ntananirwa kubivuga, bikanako mbiserura, ntananirwa kwitahura, mama kurya wansengera, kenkira uruhinja, ubu ndabikeneye kurusha irya gihe, mama ndagukeneye kurusha ukinyoza, mama mfata ukuboko kurusha ukinyoza. Thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Very nice. It's on
Wonderful.
YouTube, right?
Yes.
Great,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Viewers, we've got talented people. You can follow her, Lorette Tetero. She's got different media platforms, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. This song is, I think it was sung in her mother language, that is Kirundi. So that's the beauty
Wonderful.
of
It's a
Africa.
wonderful, wonderful song. Wonderful tribute to mother.
Thank you, Lorette. Thank you, Lorette. Anyway, Lorette, before you go, quick, who is your inspiration in Africa? I know there are a lot of people that inspired you in Africa, especially your home country. Do you wanna, mention one person? I don't know if you got me.
I think she's frozen again.
Yeah, it looks like she's up. Lorette, can you hear us?
No, there's network in Burundi problems.
Yeah, there's an issue with the network. Okay. Lorette, we can still hear you. Lorette.
She can't hear you.
And yeah.
Mm.
Okay. Anyway,
That was a beautiful song, yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
We'll get back to you. We'll get back to you. And then just quickly before we dive into the main thing right at the bottom. Just I like us to just talk about the the great things that Mother Africa is offered to us, as a global community. Things like resources and stuff like that. So we'll go straight to Mr. Chinkupete, just to talk about all the things that Africa has done, for us as a global community, not just Africa, but even outside
Yeah.
Africa.
Yes, Africa is the mother of civilizations, the mother where everything comes from, And if we look at the writing, when we in Africa were, I told you I visited Egypt, and during my visit to Egypt, one great thing which I noticed is the Egyptians, the ancient ones, they painted themselves black and brown. If you go into all those tombs, all those places, they painted themselves brown or black. That's how they represent themselves. They would also paint they had white paint, but they painted themselves black and brown. So during a time when we were writing, in Europe, they were still living in caves. They were still living in caves at that time. So the civilization as we know it was introduced to the world by Africa.
By Africa.
And then Africans are the ones who gave civilization to the world. And then the other thing is, right now, it's the exploitation of Africa that we're seeing now, so that almost everything comes from Africa. Even those Africans who were enslaved in the West, they are the ones who created most of the inventions that we see today. Like the light bulb. It was an African who invented the light bulb. It was an African who invented the telephone, even up to the mobile phone that we use today. It was an African who developed that, and many other things. Almost when I found out all this, it's almost all inventions. Just after the so-called abolition of slavery, a lot of patents were registered by Africans in America. But because they use names like Johnson and Wilson and all those kind of names, we don't recognize them as our inventions. Recently, I found that it was not Edison who invented the light bulb. It was not. It was Latimer who did that. He did not just perfect the light bulb as what he said. No, he invented the light bulb as we know it. Even automatic lubrication for engines, it was an African called Elijah McCoy who invented automatic lubrication of engines. Before that, they had to lubricate after every trip. You had to put some oil into the joints of everything. So we have made many inventions, but firstly, it's all the civilizations that we developed long before everything. And then now we get into the areas of DNA where it is now known that we populated the whole world. It is now known that the original Eve was 3 African women. That's according to mitochondrial DNA. This is now well known from mitochondrial DNA that the 3 original mothers of the world were Africans, were black Africans like us, who then populated the whole world. They can trace it now with mitochondrial DNA. So yes.
To add to that, even mathematics began in Egypt, right?
Yes.
Right?
Well, when I went to Egypt, I went to the schools where everything was taught. And on the walls there, you have got all the mathematical instruments that we know today.
Wow.
We've got all the stethoscopes, all the instruments that are used in surgery. They are all there on the wall. It's all written. It's all drawn out there on the walls. It's all written there. So almost when I say civilization, I mean medicine, philosophy. Greeks like Plato used to go to study. Aristotle, they used to go to study in Africa. And when they came back to Greece, they would be punished for preaching false doctrines, foreign doctrines, which is science and mathematics. Pythagoras was actually persecuted for teaching mathematics as teaching foreign concepts from Africa. So we've given the world everything, but colonization has deliberately made us ignorant.
Yeah.
It was deliberate to keep us away from that knowledge of our glorious past. In case we go back there, that's why most people think that Egyptians were white or they were Arabs or anything. If you go there now, they removed the nose from most of those statues. The African nose, they actually removed it. And when you ask what happened, they say it's weathering, but the ears are there. Everything else is not weathered out, but the nose only. So there's quite a few that you see were vandalized.
So in other words, we must get back our spot because we were at the forefront. And this
We will get there.
We'll get there.
That's why I said the greatest spirit we have is survival. So long as we have young people who are raising an awareness, who are keeping an interest in these things, then there is a way. There's a way that we'll go back. Because what we need now is to focus on education.
Yes.
And like I said, the mother is the greatest. We need to educate the girl child.
Yes. We'll come back to you. Kuda, over to you.
What was your original question, sir?
The original question was,
That was
what has Africa done for the world? Like, we've given the world a lot of things. It could be minerals, even this phone.
Yeah.
The material is from Congo, so anything.
I think the list is endless. As Mr. Chinkompete said, we've offered a lot. I can use something that's so recent. When you look at, we've all been talking about the pandemic. But if you look on the Pfizer team that actually developed that vaccine was led by a Zimbabwean doctor. If you look into it, you will see it. But a lot of people, we don't see it. As Konzo, you would know, there are a lot of things that we do that we see in our industry. But because we are Africans, if we are not generally recognized, we are not generally put on the forefront. And when you want to look at not only that, it's just like in different industries, and even in the, as you mentioned, medicinal, in medicine, we have given them that, because if you look at these pharmaceutical companies, they go back to Africa, they, Congo, they go into the jungle, they look at, plants, they look at all sorts, they come back and they see what disease it cures, they take that and try and replicate that in the lab. So when you look at it, the raw materials that we have for some of the diseases that we have, our ancestors, they knew how to cure these things, but because of the mentality we've been given in our minds, we don't take it. And when you look at it from a scientific background, that organic, stuff that they give you, or that they know, the knowledge, our grandmothers, if we talk to them, they will give you organic paracetamol. They'll just tell you, chew this plant, you'll be fine. Your headache will go. If you've got a cold, go and take, gum tree, eucalyptus, and, breathe it. It's the same stuff that we use nowadays, as Lepsip, a vapor rub. It's the same concept. So to me, all those things, when you then look back into history, these plants, they don't have them here in the world. Where you mainly find them is in Africa. So to me, we've given them that. So a lot of things that we have in the world, even raw materials, as Konzo said, phones, technology. Now we have even expanded to workforce. Because when you look at a lot of structures that we see, might it be Buckingham Palace, a lot of these things, Glaze built that. Where are they from? They're Africa. So we've given them that. Even the things that they call history, their history, it's African history. We've given all those resources. So I do agree, as Mr. Chinkopete said, we've given them civilization. When you look at anything, every aspect of the Western culture, might it be economy, history, architectural, music, technology. Like in Zimbabwe, we've got Mbira. They modernized it. It's now a piano. It goes back the drum. We used to make a drum out of cow skin. So it's quite a lot. The list is endless. I can go on for hours.
I didn't think of that. Piano.
Yeah.
Okay, Laurette. I think she's connected
Yes,
now.
I'm
She's in a good position and stuff. I don't know where to start. Like the person that inspires you or what Africa has given to you, we mix it. We mix those.
okay. Oh my God, I was waiting for this time, for my time to come. So, I was born in 1999. I'm 21, and from 72 up to 2003, Burundi was in war. Like every day, you had to hear gunshots. By then, in 2003, I was 4. But like the person that I really liked the most was the president that has led from 2005 up to 2020. He passed away last year, and during that time, like I would say from 2005 up to 2014, we really I have never heard a gunshot. That was a Burundian breakthrough. We were making agreements. Really, I would say it was, I don't know. It was a breakthrough on a historical breakthrough, financial on different sides, because in different areas, because we even had mothers who were delivering free. We have patriotism days for on this year on 8th, like in 2 days we're celebrating our very first patriotism day. Imagine.
What's
And
his name again? What's his name? You didn't give us his name.
oh wait, I'll come for him.
Okay. All right.
Yes. And the other person that inspires me is Nelson Mandela, for the only reason that he used to be involved in all African issues just to bring peace in Africa. If he finds problems in Zimbabwe, you'll find him there, because even in Burundi, in East Africa, we used to have those kind of issues, and he even organized a conference. We have Arusha Agreement in Burundi, and he was there. Pardon, I don't find the word, but he was there, and that's what I like most. It's that African spirit of always, I am because you are. You have to be in. If I'm celebrating, celebrate with me, and if I'm grieving, grieve with me. And the name of the president, he died on 8th of June. His name is Pierre Nkurunziza. He died in 2020. So those are the persons that I know. Like, yeah, they had Africa at heart and Burundi at heart as well. Because today, that's what makes me proud of being Burundian. That's what makes me proud of wearing my colors. Today, I wore my traditional outfit. I'll get the chance to send you a picture. But yeah, that's thank you. That's like that's the person I would say that made me proud of it. Because if I was born maybe in 1993 or 1998, I would have been telling another story.
Yes.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's good to see your attire. It's good.
Yes.
Great.
Very nice.
Wow.
Oh, beautiful.
That's beautiful. Yes. That's
Very
great.
nice.
And again,
Very elegant.
Thank
Very royal.
and again, talking about Mandela, we know that when after he got out of prison because he was sentenced for life, and then he came out after 27 years under the order of de Klerk. But when he came in, what he introduced was the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. But it wasn't about attacking white people and stuff. He wanted to bring them together because as human beings we are one. We know, like Dr. Chinkufete, he highlighted that there's one God, so we're just one human race. So he
Three
didn't
mothers.
wanna, yeah, he didn't wanna just say, what, you guys, you arrested me for this long time. Now we're going to fight you and stuff. But he tried to balance the equation, and also to improve the living standards of black people in South Africa.
Yeah.
Now we see black people, more of black people becoming entrepreneurs and stuff. Yes, we've still got a long way. There are a lot of issues, things like corruption and stuff, but we there is a massive difference, so we're getting there. And then quickly back to you again. um can you quickly tell us about the what you like about, oh no, what Africa has given to the world? Or maybe we've covered that. We can maybe skip it. Oh, okay, yeah. Just tell us.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you about hunting.
Oh,
Uh,
hunting. Okay.
yes, I think that Africa has given a lot to the world, especially when it comes to how to communicate with animals or other beings. And I came to realize, so in Burundi we have different ways of hunting, and Burundians knew how to how to communicate or how to tame animals, I would say, especially hippos. So in 1920, when we had colonizers from Belgium in Burundi, they came over and they found that Burundians has actually captured a hippo and they were eating it, and they were so shocked that it was a first time for them. It was a premiere, and they stopped them. They brought the gunshots in Burundi. Like we fought them before, and we even sent them back to where they were coming from, just traditional weapons. And they had guns, they had all of those things, when they use in the military force. And that hippo is still they put it in the museum because for them it was something amazing, but for Burundians it's something easy, and they still do it. But even when you go to Europe, you won't find people hunting and trying to kill hippos, not even kill them, or maybe having hippos that they have in their families or just nearby. They're very scared, and that's something I was okay. So this was shocking for them because Burundians were actually used to be eating dangerous animals.
Okay.
Wow.
Thank you for that. And then over to you, Emily.
I'm gonna say again, the original question is what Africa has brought to the world.
Yeah, what has it blessed us with?
Yes, actually could I touched on it, and because I work in employment, for me it's labor. There is no building that I can think that there is no solid building or piece of architecture that did not have an African person's blood and sweat on it in Europe. There are very, very few. So for me, the labor, when you look at the trains in London, the railway trains, the metropolitan lines, and in the underground, all that was built by Black people who came on, and they were paid pittance probably. When you look at the workforce, the roads, the infrastructure, all of that was built by Black people. And then coming to today, it proceeds in the same way. But the hard labor, foundational labor that, the Industrial Revolution was from 1740 to 18 something, but after that, the buildings and the structure, if you look at England, France, was built mainly by African people, and that's foundational. Coming to today, it's still the same thing. The NHS in England is held together by people of color. And then we talk about medicine. I've worked in the pharmaceutical industry, but not in your area of work. But I've worked with scientists who told me that there are even the anesthetic is from a tree in a certain part of Uganda in Borneo. The anesthetic. So even medicine itself is not originally from here. They can produce synthetic copies, but the beginning of medicine itself, they've gotten it from different barks. And like Kuda said, they'll go there and find different cures and bring it here and label it and call it one name, but it's originally from, and they'll tell you those things. Sign the confidentiality agreement, because if you say these things, then they'll be seen for what they are. But Africa is given a lot of heritage, and those the two things I've mentioned are just few things. Labor, which is the whole system of this nation and most of Europe, is built upon. One, Germany itself is built on that. We took the Namibians, the Hottentots, the Herero people, took them to build what is now called Germany. And then we've got the medicines. There's no medicine that is a real original medicine is made from Africa. And they're still experimenting on the African continent, in the area.
If I can add to that, my mother, it's the forced labor to a large extent. If you look at America, it was built by African forced labor. That's what built America itself. That is why America was able to jump in terms of industrialization. Even the whole industrial revolution itself, it was copper from Zambia that wired the whole of Europe.
See now. So that there would not be Europe as it is now without African labor or forced labor. It wouldn't happen. It just wouldn't happen.
So
like Loreto was saying, they were used. They in Burundi they could fight, and there's a strength to them, to the African son and woman that can withstand the hard labor that they've had to undergo in order to build Europe. So that's a powerful thing that we've given to the world. I mean, I could go on, but that's two things I can talk about right now.
So now that we've spoken about all these invaluable things that we've given to the world, the beautiful things about Africa and stuff, obviously we've mentioned that we were at the forefront and we need to, gain back our position and stuff. And
can I add something quick? Oh, sorry, you carry on.
Okay. Yeah, Ed.
Just to say quickly, and the reason why the tables have turned, and it seems like even though we've done all this, is this a psychological system that they've used, maybe I was going to come to it, was of self-hate, where we've been trained to hate ourselves and hate anything that is African. That's a salient, insidious weapon that's been used for us to look down on ourselves, look down on where we come from. All this history that Dr. Chinkopete is talking about in Egypt, that is all this taken off of the noses. And that is a warped history. People are now telling us we are one thing when we are quite another. So this psychology of self-hate is what we need to address, because once we've dealt with that, we'll stand tall and proud proud of ourselves and proud of one another and work together. But as long as we think, Tommy, if I put on a Tommy Hilfiger shirt, now I'm somebody.
That's where I wanted us to go. Like
okay.
The conclusion and where we talk about problems and solutions and stuff. So now that we've had all these things, so what is the future that we want, for Africa, for our generation and the future generation? Because we pretty much got everything. We've given the world, a lot, more than enough. And we know that we were at the forefront. So how do we claim back our position? To be at the forefront, because Africa, we know it's going to be great again. So we'll go to Dr. Mester Chinkumfete
As my mother said, yeah, I told you the power of the mothers is great. You know, as my mother says, what we are suffering from is a result of brainwashing. So we really need de-brainwashing. We need de-brainwashing. We need a process of de-brainwashing. Most Africans will not accept that we were great. Most think that our history starts with colonization, which is only yesterday. And most look down on ourselves. If they don't look down on themselves, they'll look down on all other Africans who are just like themselves. So it is difficult to change, because for us to get where we are, it was actually the use of the gun as well as religion. In terms of Islam and Christianity, they were used. They were used to enslave our minds. Now maybe we need to use maybe the same tools to liberate our minds. And then the liberation has to come now to the younger ones. It has to be school education in school. When the Europeans colonized our minds, they did not just do it randomly. There was a program. Even those who were in the British system, they would be given lectures on how to control Africans for 500 years. There was a book where Willie Lynch was one guy who used to go around giving lectures to plantations on how to control Africans for 500 years, so that even if you set them free, they will come back to you and say, well, where do you want me to go? Where will I find a beautiful house like this? That is the master's house that they're talking about. So de-brainwashing, it needs our psychologists, our scientists to work out a program where we educate children. It has to start with children. If we start discussing with our own elders, our own groups, they will not listen. We will divide each other even further. That is what they want. They produced it so that if I tell you today that you shouldn't call me a boy, like people will say my boy, or people will say, they'll even call themselves nigger, which is a derogatory term which was used by white people to say you will never be a human being. For us in Zimbabwe, for example, as a man, you will never be a man. You're just a boy. If you're African, you're a boy. Now we with many calling ourselves boys again. So if you start to reason with them, we will lose each other completely. So we will need to start with. We need to start with the children. It needs to be at school.
With the young people. Okay.
With young people, young boys and young girls must be taught the greatness of our mothers as well. Young boys should learn about that, and young girls. So our program should really target school children, writing books for school children. As long as we want to convince adults, no, we say it will not come out. We'll just start a war between ourselves, which is what the program was. So that each time we try to open our eyes, we'll fight each other. That's how it was designed. It was designed so that each time we try to open our eyes, we fight each other. Now there's a few of us who will see, like yourselves, setting up this kind of program. It is the quest that you have in your hearts. So there's a few people who have got that quest in their heart. But what we need to target are children. We need books for children.
Yes.
In schools.
Even you're a scientist, even having books in science that are written in our language. We can
Well, my brother, I was just talking. You're speaking things that are happening right now. I was on the call just yesterday with Chinhoyi University of Technology. I'm trying to identify 2 students there, and then I'll identify 2 of my students here. We want to write the PCR in Shona and in Ndebele.
Wow, thank you for that. Thank you.
We want to write the PCR method in Shona and Ndebele. When we say we're going to write it in Shona and Ndebele, we're not dreaming. We're not going to create another word for centrifuge and things like that. We will use the word centrifuge.
Yeah.
We will use the word temperature. We're not going to try but we want to use Shona and Ndebele to describe that process.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Wow.
Beautiful.
So you're correct. So what you're saying is exactly what we need in all spheres.
Yeah.
We were complaining the other day that when the colonizers came, they translated the Bible. They translated the Bible into Shona, into all the vernacular languages, but they did not translate a science textbook. They did not translate a geography textbook. They did not translate anything else. So it is our responsibility to translate science into our languages. So I agree with you, and it's a pleasure to hear you say that.
Yeah, those are the
Because
questions.
just yesterday I was on the phone.
Those are the questions I used to ask myself when I was like doing my secondary education.
Yeah, but they can't do it for us. We have to do it. It's our responsibility.
We have, Shona books in science textbooks and
Yes.
stuff when I was doing chemistry over there.
It is our responsibility. Like you guys who are at the forefront of the health sciences, like the medicines and things like that. It's very important that we start to translate into our languages.
Yeah.
What that does, it liberates the mind.
We'll come back to you. We've got a lot a lot of things to ask you. So, Emily, what is the future that we want for Africa? I know you've got love, for the young people and stuff, and you're doing, amazing things with Africa Arise Group and stuff. And so, what is the Africa that you want to see?
The future that I want is to get rid of this fragmentation of Africans that was deliberately caused through colonization, where we are all fragmented, and that was set to run for 100 years or more. That is why Dr. Chimkopete is saying it's not something it's not something that we can change overnight, because the way it was designed was 400 years plus. So this fragmentation, the only way we can come away from it is by now recognizing it. Education. The future I want for Africa, for me, is, I will just echo Dr. Jim, education. Educating the young people, educating the children that they are of value, they are of a great and powerful identity. Actually showing them, I like how Dr. Chimkete talks about this queen and that queen and that queen. I remember people saying when we had, was it Meghan, who got married in the royal family, and there was all this word going on, oh, we've got now a black woman in the royal family. I remember at the time talking to Dr. Chimkopete, and he told me, no, but there's this queen and there was that queen and there was that. And I didn't know, and I'm older. So we need our young people, 3-year-old, 4-year-olds, to know that, you know what, you come from a dynasty of kings and queens.
That's right.
This is who you are.
Yes.
Yeah. We won't be told the lies. And could I mention that history was written in such a way to program us to think a certain way. We need to find the right information and stop reading lies. Right. So the future I want for Africa is education, identity to be restored through education, and coming away from this fragmentation, self-hate philosophy. We need to come away from that. We need to, but it's going to have to work with psychology, because it was done with psychology. Yeah. So there needs to be groups of people to get together to start looking. You scientists work on the sciences. Psychology, work on psychology. How do we restore back our own selves to ourselves in our thinking? It's all about working together. And also we must write our history. Nobody else will do it for us. No matter their great intention, they will do it with an agenda. Anybody who says they'll do it for us, it is with an agenda, sadly. because they are also programmed that way to be the master people. So we are the ones who are going to do it for ourselves. So yeah, that's the future I want for us. Unity, come away from fragmentation, come away from self-hate, rewrite our history, restore our original identity. We are kings and queens, and we are of value. You are not of value because you live in the UK or you are driving a certain car. No, you're not value because you eat with a knife and fork. No.
Yeah, I'll come back to you with other questions as well. Chinese in Zambia. I'm coming back. Kuda. What is the future that you want for Africa?
I think, as everyone has touched, the main thing that stands out to me is, as Mr. Chinkopete said, we need deep brainwashing. They instilled this mentality of divide and rule, where we, over generations, we've lost our history. And I think as Africans, the sooner we know about our history, the sooner we'll go back to the top. Because when I look at, for example, Mr. Chinkopete's generation, they actually know more about Western history than the Westerners themselves, because this was instilled in their education system.
Of course.
Us as Africans, you can sit us there. We can tell you about African history, Mussolini, this history.
Yes.
But if you ask them about Lobengula, they've got no clue, because it wasn't instilled. And I remember in the 2000s when we were more or less the first people to write ZIMSEC in Zimbabwe, when the education system was restructured. And we were one of the first people to learn African history. But I remember the backlash that the example was given, in the sense that you're introducing this African history because you're trying to instill, this colonization so that our children don't see what you're doing. Instead of actually encouraging our heritage, it was taken as a political agenda. So it's one of those things where we need to have that mentality where not everything that's Western is good for us. Because like she said, so
we need to be proud of ourselves.
We need to be proud of ourselves. We need to, acknowledge, our history, where we come from. The brainwashing is that bad to the point that even African food is regarded as backward, as your bush. Mealie meal, red sadza, soya, when you eat that sadza, tsunga, mufushwa, all those things, when you eat them, they call you your bush. Whereas that is the food that's healthy, that's organic, compared to any other food that you can think of. When you look at sugar, just to give an example, if you look down into history, sugar is written as it was first, developed in southern India, but sugar has always been in our diet. Whenever you can, sugar cane. We used to eat raw sugar, but because now it was refined, our children, the young generation, they're being taught it's not an African thing. It started somewhere else. And we need to, as Emily said, we need to acknowledge, as Africans, we need to develop ourselves, not this whole mentality of saying, because when you look at Africa, we've got raw materials, like Konzo said, mobile phones. Those are raw materials coming out from Africa. Proper wood furniture, oak furniture, it comes from Africa. We provide that. Diamonds, gold, you name it. We've got it. Why? All I just wish is we, as youngsters and as we are educated, we go back and we kind of look at that, and sell them as raw products rather than as raw materials and having to buy them back. So for me, that's the Africa I want to see, where us as Africans, we take back, process our things, and we are leaders rather than, investing in companies, us as Africans, rather than having to go and look for investors from the West to come in. Because to be honest, Africans, we are rich. We are rich. We take our money and we bring it to Western countries and invest it in Western countries, and we think, that's where the money is. But really, they are actually making money with our money.
That's right.
Yeah, so I just wish us as Africans we start, knowing our history and start, looking back at home and invest at home. And as I always talk with Kozanani, like, man, we should do something. Like some of these medicines, the things that we have, we've got the raw materials back at home that we just leave lying around, but here they sell them for thousands. And I'm just like, why can't we just put hands together and just make these things back at home? It will be so much cheaper. The resources are available, where we just, have this thing of de-brainwashing, as Mr. Chunkupeta said, and we start being proud of ourselves, rather than having to associate with other people for you to be accepted. Just be yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is that we won't be inventing any new will. Like
We won't.
other communities in the world are doing the same thing. Like Chinese, they've got manufacturing companies and stuff in their countries. You've got America, you've got countries in Europe, you've got Israel. So we can do the same thing because, like you said, we've got resources and stuff, and we are seeing glimpses of that. Entrepreneurs in Africa, like that, people starting their own businesses, manufacturing company, especially countries like Ghana, they are encouraging more of that. And also, Ethiopia doing decoding and things like that. So we need to be at the forefront and stuff. So yes, that's beautiful. Laurette, what is the Africa that you want? Before we
Really normal. I really want
time
an
has gone, but there's a lot of things that we need to cover. Maybe 10 minutes more, 15 minutes more. Yes, go ahead, Laurette.
for me. I think the thing that we should teach the youngsters is spread African languages. It's interesting when you go for. I'm going to talk about myself, for instance. I'm more fluent in English and in French more than I am in my own language. And that's so sad because, my language is who I am. My Kirundi is who I am, or even the other Bantu languages are actually what make us one people as Africans. So, as everybody has mentioned it, I think um, education, putting it, I don't know, writing books and making maybe a whole program of just inculcating this African spirit.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes. We've got a lot of things to talk about, but time is running out.
Yeah, we can't cover it all.
Yeah, maybe 10, 15 minutes. Because I wanted us to talk about, politics and things like corruption in Africa. We know things like that, they're happening. Yes, there are some countries that, are working hard to uproot corruption. For example, South Africa, they're doing well. We've got countries like Rwanda, even Ghana, they're doing well. But yeah, again, people are shying away from politics. Maybe we can start from there. So, Dr. Chinkufete, why is it that Africans tend to shy away from politics?
Well, it's the way politics is put. It's politics is for the politicians, and we don't feel like we are politicians. Whereas it's not like it's to do with our bread and butter, but because it's said it's for the politicians. Then once we get into the political arena, then politics is just to please people. It's politicking. It's to please people. What we would rather focus on is getting things that will sort our problem. Like Kuda was saying earlier on, it almost happened in Zimbabwe. It almost happened because there was a certain set of kids who studied the trial of Dedan Kimati in class. They even did How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, and then it all vanished. So even when we try to be entrepreneurs, if we are self-centered,
Mhm.
If we think about being an entrepreneur is me becoming rich,
Mm.
then we lose it. We have
Yeah.
to be people orientated. So that orientation towards the people, it needs to start with youngsters our age, and even some of your age group. They are all corrupted because they think successful people are those crooks who are making a lot of money in Zimbabwe,
Mm.
for example. A lot of crooks, some false preachers, some false
Yeah.
what do they call themselves, prophets.
Charlatans,
Mhm.
false
Yes,
prophets.
and they're making money and they come up with some guns and making all these WhatsApp videos, and young people think that is it.
Mm. A lie.
So we really need to inculcate a new mindset
Yeah,
to,
man.
to,
Yeah,
to, to youngsters who are coming up to not to follow that.
yeah. And also telling them the importance of getting involved in things like politics and
When it
leader
comes to
because leadership.
when it comes to politics, the actual politics that is there is not the politics of African liberation. It's politics of partyism and all that thing there. Whereas if we're just following parties and we form a party, everyone is going to vote for the party, and even if the party has got a lot of crooks, we're voting for the party, not the individual who is going to stand for you. So if we come on the political arena, they should all be just a group of independents, no party business. But me, this is what I stand for. This is what I'm going to do. Not this is what my party is going to do. Meanwhile, I'm going to steal. So if it's politics, it has to be independence. Everyone has to be independent, not hide behind some party and then come and steal in the name of what party. So that politics is in Africa is really a dirty game. That's why maybe we ought to focus more on educating the young people, writing books for young people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I will come back with another. Let's we hear from Ayo. I don't know whether she can hear us or not because her mic is on mute. Because her phone, she had battery like issues and stuff. I don't know whether she can hear us or not.
Seems to be on mute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's on mute. If she can switch on your mic and then we allow her to talk because she hasn't, and then we move because we don't have time. Can you unmute, please? Unmute your mic.
You sure she can hear you?
Yeah. So we can move fast.
Yeah?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yeah,
Your video is off.
we can hear you
Yeah,
now.
I still don't have. I don't know what's going on with my phone, but it's refusing to charge, so I can't even. If I put the phone camera on, it's going to die.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Yeah. Your quick remarks with regards to Africa. Um, what 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 do you want to contribute with regards to the Africa that we want as a global citizens or Africans
I
going
would just
forward?
say that we should continue just trying to support one another, supporting all of the countries within Africa, and really developing the young people. I have a strong passion for that because I believe that if we develop the younger generation, then Africa will be great. We have so much potential, that we are very talented and educated, and we could do so much, not just for Africa, but for the whole world.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'll focusing on maybe Nigeria. What are the things that you've seen that have been hindering the progress of the young people and stuff? Because there was this thing about the NSAS thing and stuff. I don't know if you wanna say one or two things about that.
I think the main thing with the whole SARS movement was the corruption. That's one thing that I really don't like about Nigeria, is the corruption with the government. And instead of developing like the country, they would rather hold the wealth to themselves. And that's what sparked the whole SARS movement and the anger within the nation. People were just fed up of, the lack of opportunities, the lack of any sort of development for them because the governors refused to help. And it's really sad to see the frustration within Nigeria, and the governors are still, they're not really investing in their people.
Like
And I,
especially the young people. Okay.
yeah, I think it's just selfishness on their part, and
Yep.
they'd rather just silence, the people that don't have rather than uplift them.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Okay. Yeah, to kind of wrap up and conclude, I wanted us to talk about the agriculture in Africa, and also, Emily, um, you're you're close to this nation, Zambia, and stuff, and Chinese have been to that country. They're doing a lot, but it's not. It seems like it's not benefiting, the indigenous people a lot. So
Well, it can't, because their agenda is it's back to selfishness. I have to be careful how I say here. There is a limitation of human rights within China itself. So if they cannot exercise that in their own country, how can they exercise it in another nation? So their agenda is globalization. Their agenda, they've studied Africa and Africans. Africa always looking to IMF with a begging bowl, World Bank with a begging bowl. So they want to now remove this begging bowl of IMF and World Bank, and they become the ones that we look at. But their agenda in the end, I can tell you now, is to remove the title deed of African land. It's not just to lease land. They're saying they're leasing land now because that's palatable and that's acceptable. So now they're teaching us to normalize, because if you want to bring a principle that is not acceptable to a group of people, start off first by normalizing it. Make it normal. It's okay to see a Chinese person doing this. We're just leasing land, or we're just selling you, phones and things like this. We're just working together with you. So it's normal now. They're normalizing it. It's not lease. The end result is they're changing title deeds behind the scenes. And what they're doing is they're working with corrupt leaders. That's why we cannot work with those leaders. We've got to work with young people. So it's a deeper corruption, deeper, not only colonization, it's a taking over. Because when you look at Chinese land itself, they started reclamation of land into the sea years ago because they don't have land anymore and they want to expand industrially, and that's all good for them. But because they don't have the space, they're leasing in Uganda, they're leasing in Nigeria, they're leasing in Zimbabwe, they're leasing in other parts of the world, and the West in Zambia. But the agenda is, if it was to lease, I probably wouldn't have so much a problem, but the agenda is to literally change the title deed and to get rid of Black people. And their plan is 200-year plan for their own people. Because look, China is expanding, but where are their people going to stay? So the agenda is hidden, and mark my words, every company that is Chinese in Africa is linked to the government, because for them to come to Africa, they have to get a license from the government. So the whole thing, in the face of it, it's just business, but in the background is the government, and their agenda for Africa is literally to take over. So I think if you read books like this one, Dambisa Moyo, Winner Take It All. There are many others. This is kind of like a summary, which is summarize a lot of books and a lot of works. People need to be educated and wake up on the agenda. Right now, we've got elections coming up in Zambia on the 12th of August. There's one leader who is pro, who is, I think, personally may be a puppet of groups, and one who is for the people. So we have to see who's going to win. We have to push the right. We have to push the right leader, because they will use leaders
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. Because I was about to, yeah, I like that. But
That's a very,
these
very poor
foreigners when they
summary.
come, yeah, these foreigners when they come in,
Mm.
they are enabled by some of these leaders and stuff. And when you look at the statistics when it comes to corruption, that every year it costs us something like $3 million. So what do we do now? And we were saying that as Africans we should be more responsible. We should be at the forefront, you
Mm.
know, encouraging indigenous people as well to be entrepreneurs and having leaders that will, are there to secure the future of the people, putting people first. The government that is transparent.
Mm.
When it comes to contracts and stuff, everything should be in the public domain, in the
Mm.
open. So what do we do now as Africans to challenge the culture that allows these things to continue, like corruption, uh, you know, uh, being bribed and stuff and all that, you know?
Yeah, all that was a seed. We were not corrupt in the beginning.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
That was a seed. Now we need to go back. Who taught us that seed? To be corrupt, to be bribing one another. I told you the story about the children at the beginning. That is who Africans are.
Mm.
Ubuntu. That is who Africans. So somebody taught us to bribe. Somebody taught us to. This word corruption didn't start in Africa. It started. It was a seed that we were taught. Have a house in Borodale, not in Zimba. Put your school to be with this child, to be with this group of people. Now, and that go back to that seed, and you get rid of corruption. I'll let others speak.
Okay.
What is happening as well is the political systems that we are following. Like I said, in all these countries that we are talking about, there are opposition parties.
Yes.
That's part of the political system which doesn't work for us. What works maybe, like I said, is maybe if we were independent, if all those people in government were independents, who are in government doing the work that they've been voted to do. But as long as people hide behind parties, there will always be this nonsense. And there will be, the opposition will also want to go in and say we must eat as well. And then if we talk about entrepreneurship, if we don't instill a people-centered entrepreneurship, we're just going to create more people who just want to rob people more. Like we have now some groups which are there, even in Zim now, who are there to say, oh, we are there for empowerment of Black people. But if you look at the characters in there, they all think about themselves individually.
The fake prophets and stuff.
Yes, so it's the same thing. It's the same thing. So there are also opposition groups in all these countries who are complaining about the Chinese and all that. But once they get in as well, they're going to see who gives them money, who gives them enough money. Then the problem continues. What we can focus on is educating the young. What I would like is possibly, like now, those of us here can say we're going to write something in Shona for the children to understand pharmacology, for the children to understand this. We're starting to write those. When we write those things like that, it creates also a pride in the youth. Besides teaching them science, they will be proud of them. But we need to focus on the young ones.
Yes. Time is not on our side. I think we're just gonna conclude. Just summarize and just bring our final thoughts. What I would say that like people can we talk about the importance of like togetherness as Africans. Kuda.
For me, I think we just have to. The main thing for us, I think, as Africans, is to be proud of our heritage. That's the first thing, and once we look at that, the togetherness was the core value in our heritage, in everything that we did. And I think once we accept that, we will be able to move forward. And when it comes to corruption and politics, as you say, I would just add a few comments in that. Politically, we are also brainwashed, very, very brainwashed. And especially with the young people, we also need to make them understand that, when you vote and when you're not voting for a party, you're voting for your future. You're voting for, everything that you're going to do. And, especially this whole thing, we're talking about fake prophets and everything. Now in Zimbabwe, it's actually become normal to see, these guys are at the forefront and they're so corrupt that everybody knows it.
Yeah.
But we've accepted it. It's now so normal that, we've taken it as its everyday life. That's even kids before, used to have kids. When I grow up, I want to be this. Now you have got kids who are looking up to those corrupt people. And so I just wish, we just look at our heritage and all the core values for me, I think they all come back once we acknowledge and accept our African history and our heritage and where we come from.
And Edwin is saying we have normalized corruption and we are to blame because we embrace it, and that's so wrong.
Yeah,
that's true. That's very true.
There were other comments as well. Would be good to.
Yes, your conclusion. Let's move to Emily. What is your summary so we can just wrap up?
Yeah, my summary. I think we need to listen to each other. I'm actually keen that you read the comments so we bring in the viewers. There were other comments.
When you guys start
my take summary is to listen. We need to listen to each other, like what we were doing today. Listen to one another, not shut each other down. You are this tribe, you are this group, you are that, because that's what we've been trained to do. I think listening is very, very important. I will not listen to this person because they don't think the way I think. I think it's important to listen to each other, and then we can start building from there.
So when you started highlighting the corruption issue, these questions started coming up from the viewers and stuff.
Yeah, corruption. People keep Africa is corrupt. No, Africa was taught to be corrupt. We are not indigenously corrupt. It's a seed that was planted. And if you look at the way it really started.
Okay, let's see the summary of Mr. Chinkude.
Yes, unity is a must because our unity is our strength. So we should focus on those things that unite us, and then focus on those things and build on those things, because we were programmed that once we want to discuss these things, we must disintegrate. Then I agree, corruption is here in the UK heavy. Right now they're talking about corruption about the motorway on the M1, that the roadworks that never end. That about 300 million has gone down in those roadworks that never end. There's corruption with the COVID-19. The Drugs International in Zim. There's a bigger one here called Ayanda. A bigger one, much bigger one, where government paid a lot of money to some flimsy company which never produced. It produced some COVID-19 PPE which doesn't work. So here is where we're learning it. This is our model. We're doing the Westminster model. This is where we're learning. That's why when they sit in Parliament in Zim, they're going, no, yes. They're making a lot of noise like animals. It's from Westminster. So we must teach our children that we are kings and queens.
We need to be more
kings and queens.
Yes. Thank you, beautiful people. I think we discussed a lot of things, and we cannot exhaust these things. There's so many things that we can talk about, especially corruption and all these other things. I think as we continue to discuss about these issues, will bring light to us and people out there, because it's all about togetherness, because we are stronger together. We learn from one another, and I believe
together.
Africa will be great again. And talking of corruption, I was also looking at a country like South Africa. There's so many things. There's a lot of corruption right there.
Wow, serious. It's
Like,
endemic throughout the continent.
yes, when you look at the period of Zuma, when he was in there, like all these state-owned, enterprises, like in his second term, they highlighted that about, $100 billion, $100 billion US dollars, it was stolen because of that, because of Zuma's administration and stuff, um, you know. But then obviously South Africa they've been trying their best. When the next person came in, Ramaphosa, in 2019, that was their main thing: try and restore the state-owned enterprises. So fighting corruption and also bringing people that had leadership qualities to kind of fight that. And the good example is Raymond Zondo, who was the deputy chief justice. So we saw a bit of change and stuff. So I think as African, that what the point I'm trying to drive home, we must find ways of trying to reduce it, and also understand that it is there, and we really need to work hard to just remove corruption going forward and be more transparent. For example, yes, we mentioned that even in Europe there's corruption. So fighting corruption, it demands more than like the political leadership. It requires like all players,
Ownership. Yeah.
ownership, or even people that are outside Africa and stuff. And then when I look, and then it needs us to be more transparent, as we said, that everything or even the contracts should be like in the open, and we have to be able to track, the flows of every public funding, you know. And the other good example, that I was trying to follow when they were fighting, corruption in Africa, the Rolls-Royce company, it's in the Western world.
Yeah.
But, all these powerful guys were doing all these dodgy deals, and Rolls-Royce was involved. So it's just more than politics. It requires a lot of people. And then when they challenged now Rolls-Royce, with regards to being open, because they had this systematic bribery with African guys, African leaders and stuff, and they had to use this system called AI, which can search document like 2,000 times faster. And when they now challenged Rolls-Royce, they ended up admitting to it, and they started making changes. And they only did that when they were challenged. And we need to do more of that as well. Challenge the system, and don't just like, we shouldn't be just talking about it, but we need to find ways of challenging the system to make Africa better again. Even like the whistleblowers, when they talk about these things, they shouldn't be oppressed, because there's one lady called Cynthia Stimple, who was working for South African Airways. She also highlighted issues about corruption and stuff, and what they did to her, they had to fire her from her work, because she had to highlight an issue about signing like a check which was more than the banks required for a certain new company, and they had to um, fire her from work. But the beautiful thing is that the case is ongoing, so we just have to press on. And like as you said, Africa has got beautiful resources, and we can do better. You look at Ghana, we've got resources. I think there's a time when we're talking about the coca beans producing more than 100 billion, dollars a year. But those African countries are only gaining about 4 billion or so. So, like Kuda said, if we have manufacturing companies and stuff in Africa that can, produce final products, also employment creation and things like that. So we can be better. And even in medication, we can be better. And that's the Africa that we want.
I mean, just to add to your summary, I mean, I see a lot of people are posting comments about corruption, but it's a cancer in the country. But I think the most important thing when it comes to corruption, it's about everybody taking responsibility for their own actions, accountability. Because we can say it's the politicians and they're corrupt and stuff like that, but we also need to take into consideration that our actions, the things that we do, they do contribute to corruption.
Yes.
And change has to start with us. For example, I can give an example. If you go to Zim, if you see a police officer and they give you a speeding ticket and they'll tell you, give me $10 on the side and I won't write you a ticket. You have to take responsibility to say, listen, I'm going to pay my fine and I'm not going to give you this $10 that you're asking for. Because what you don't realize is that $10 you're giving that person not to give you a ticket, you are contributing to corruption because he's got that $10, he's going to go and do it again. And all that's just going to result in is corruption getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
So, we can't expect corruption to stop, and we are opening up companies, changing money on the black market. It will never stop. So I just wanted to add, when it comes to corruption, us as individuals in the different countries that we're in, we have to be responsible and take some sort of, accountability into our actions to say, some of the things that we do, especially people in the diaspora, a lot of the things that we do back home are contributing to the corruption that we see today and that people in Africa are suffering because of our actions from this side.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, beautiful people. We'll talk more about these things in the next, talk shows and stuff. And thank you for your time. I think we've reached 2 hours.
2 hours, yeah. That went fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Nice to meet you.